Hi, I'm Robert Rickover, an Alexander Technique teacher in Omaha, Nebraska. My guest is Imogen Ragone, an Alexander Technique teacher in Wilmington, Delaware. And we're doing a sequence of uh, interviews on the topic of concentration, as seen by Alexander, and in this interview also as seen by the general public.
Mm.
So. And just to recap very slightly, Alexander felt that concentration, he's talking about narrowing of focus kind of concentration, not wide range, not kids having fun playing a game and concentrating on the game, but narrow focus concentration. Um, that concentration, even that narrow focus kind, um, he doesn't like. But he even says, let me just quote, this is great. Make a search for a person who does not believe in concentration, and the results of your investigation will convince you of the truth that there's a universal belief in the value of concentration. So he's saying, I think concentration's a terrible thing, but everyone else in the world thinks it's a good thing. He's writing in 1923, and I thought, well, it'd be interesting to see how, if I just did a quick random Google search on concentration. The situation is exactly the same today. I saw medical sites, respectable medical sites saying, yes, that's a really important thing. Even Montessori school saying yes, should do it.
Well, I need to just jump in for a moment
Yeah,
because are they exactly talking about exactly what FM was talking about? Because it is important to
yeah.
be able to focus your mind on something,
If
to
if
be able
if
to
you can
do
do it
many
without
things in
without
life
tightening yourself.
without tightening. But I don't know that the tightening is, we're putting our Alexander lens on it. Um,
Yeah.
and anyway, I'm just trying to keep you honest.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Well, um, even some of the websites that talk about concentration as being a useful thing have a picture of someone furrowing their brow.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
yeah,
because
so
that's
that
the image, and that's the more annoying thing to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Um,
The only hint of negativity I was able to find was a medical site, might have been Cleveland Clinic, I'm not sure, that said some doctor saying, some doctor expert on concentration saying, well, it could be a bad idea to do it for 8 or 10 hours at a time.
that'd be impossible.
Well,
But anyway.
so that's that. But
Um,
yeah, so,
Yeah, I just want to bring in kind of and see. I used the word focus earlier
yeah,
because I was trying not to use the word concentration,
yeah.
um, because it is very important to, at times, to be able to focus our attention. My attention is focused on this podcast. If I'm thinking about what I'm making for dinner, I may not be able to answer the questions or address what we're talking about very well.
But
Um,
those kind of thoughts are not what Alexander was concerned about. Making dinner, he'd approve of that.
yes, but I might not be able to answer your question about concentration if my mind has gone over to
Right,
what's for dinner, what am I going to
right.
make. Um, so I think it's more about I can focus, and if I kind of get a glimpse of one of these thoughts coming in, I can kind of bring myself back to focusing on what you're saying, which I hope. as I'm doing so, I have some awareness of myself and my back and etc. And it might not be very conscious most of the time, but I moved my feet because I noticed I'd gone to kind of crossing
Yeah.
my legs, somehow at some point during our conversation.
Right. Well, my
Um,
guess is that if you were to wander off mentally into tonight's dinner, that you wouldn't be furrowing your brow unless you were worried about
yeah,
something.
like
Did I
did I
get?
forget to get the
Uh,
ingredient or
yeah,
yeah,
but if it's just making dinner, not just me, but making dinner, that's a complex activity, and you're just saying you just you had a thought about, oh, I'm going to do that tonight, right? Maybe
I just
make
made that
sure I
up, but
have
it's
all the
possible.
ingredients.
Yes.
He would have no problem with that. But again, the kind of concentration he's talking about, you see people reading and
Oh, I know, and I've read a book and I've been immersed in it. I've been enjoying the story, and
yeah,
to me that's a wonderful thing. But I'm not necessarily hunkered down
I
over.
doubt it. I doubt, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh,
I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm reading a book that has some immensely funny, weird, funny
mhm,
things, and
mhm.
I'm laughing and just pausing for a moment, taking
Yeah, so
it
you're
in.
really with the material.
Yeah, that's not the
Um,
kind of concentration he's talking
I
about.
know, but it might be what some of these sites are talking about. That's my kind of point that we might be talking about because I've heard a lot of,
Yeah, yeah.
the,
It could be the word means something different to them. The word means
or
something
I
to
think
them,
it kind of encompasses both, and we're really focused on the, in quotes,
right,
bad side of concentration.
right. And as we mentioned earlier, in an earlier interview, Alexander himself says, "I'm not talking about healthy children at play, building a playhouse or something, or I'm not talking about." Something that's a complex situation that you are responsible for, and you have to concentrate on you have to be aware of multiple things going on at the same time. And there are a lot of jobs like that. I mentioned the crane operator on a high-rise building. They're sitting in a little cab, and you might think, well, they're hauling equipment up and hauling stuff down, but they have to know everything that's going on around
So
it.
they have to have a focus on what they're doing, but that focus encompasses a lot.
Exactly. And that's not the kind
It's not like I
Alex,
am just looking at this dial and
yeah, yeah,
not
right, right,
not letting out of my sight.
right.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
there could be a situation where we really have to be looking at one thing. I can't think of an example right now, but we can
Yeah,
still, with some knowledge, be focused on that and not narrowed, concentrating on it.
right. And I think that leads to the point I want to make around this divergence between our Alexander teachers say almost hatred of concentration, and ordinary people think, well, I really want to be able to concentrate,
Mhm.
is that has huge implications for how we market the technique, how we teach, and s- from, as you said, we have to be really clear that we're not talking about certain types of concentration. We're talking about the narrow focusing, tightening kind of
Mhm.
concentration. And because I think it's possible. I don't know that I've ever done this, but I could imagine an Alexander teacher when a student says I'm concentrating on something, might just say, well, that's a terrible thing. Don't do it. Whereas, I think you have to be very clear about the two types of really two, I'd
Yeah,
say two types
yeah.
of
It's
concentration.
interesting. I mean, I'm thinking if we can kind of think about the positive type of concentration, that I think Alexander technique would really help people.
Definitely,
That.
definitely.
Um,
And it might help people who are not doing that, who are doing the narrow stuff over time as well. If
yeah.
sneak it
Oh,
in
yeah.
on them. Yeah,
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 absolutely. Because the more you just become aware of yourself, you're like, well, why was I doing that when I was focused on that problem or whatever
yeah,
it was?
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Well, I've said everything I want to say about this divergence. Anything else you want to add to it?
um, I wonder if this fits because there's a lot of talk right now about attention
Mm,
and concern that young people aren't able to
yeah.
attend to things, that it's just all over the place. And I actually heard some very interesting, I wish I could remember the name of it, interesting podcast about this topic, um, which was like helping me think again about it. So it's kind of interesting that we're talking about this right now. And how they're saying like young people can't concentrate or can't give their attention to things. They're always on their phones and it's always distractions and distractions. And they were kind of saying, well, it's actually what they're paying attention to, because if they're scrolling through Instagram for 5 hours, their attention's really
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Instagram. But
yeah,
it's not, so it's to do with awareness. Anyway, that might be it just feels like we're sort of veering
yeah,
into the same sort of area that
yeah.
there's a lot of of concern about. And I thought it was one interesting thing in this conversation that apparently when the novel was first kind of being more broadly available and there was a lot of concern about how people were just reading for pleasure, it was going to you know be the
Oh,
death of social connection and and um everything that we're kind of saying now about phones and the internet. And
yeah. Although I do think with phones, there's a particular aspect
oh I
of the small size, and that does tend to narrow your,
Yeah, because it's just literally smaller, but they had
yeah,
quite small books, and that's not the same
yeah,
as looking
yeah,
out at the countryside. Um, uh,
right, right. Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I
Anyway,
digress, but I think there's different ways of looking at concentration, and I think Alexander technique can help
absolutely.
in
So
in
if
in
if
whatever
you're
way.
an Alexander student and you decide to wander into some of his books and you hear concentration being trashed and you tell your teacher about that, it would be good if the teacher was really clear about those different kinds of
Yeah,
concentration,
yeah, yeah.
which I have to say I had not thought of particularly
Mhm, mhm,
for researching all this.
mhm.
So that's it for this conversation. My guest has been Imogen Ragone, and my name is Robert Rickover, and we have one more to go.
Okay.